the only time people notice what a cleaner does is when she doesn't do it.
Je pense que beaucoup ne se rendent pas compte.
Many people don't realize the time and work it takes for things to be clean. I think people sometimes assume that because we're there, every request can be done immediately.
On est là, toute demande, ça doit être fait.
They are essential, but often invisible. Welcome to Unsung Cleaners, a podcast where Europe's cleaners tell their stories in their own words. I'm Gail Rego, the host of this podcast, and together we'll go on a journey to uncover the essential yet often invisible role that cleaners have on our everyday lives. Imagine for a moment the world without them. The office kitchen sink piled high. A hospital corridor sticky underfoot. The airport toilet you wouldn't dare walk into. This isn't a dystopian fantasy. This is exactly what our reality would be every single day if no one showed up to clean up. Cleaners don't just make things look nice and tidy, they actually make life livable. And they make our world safe, functional, and humane. They are the quiet force for public health and safety, preventing infection and disease while restoring order to the mess we all leave behind every day. And yet, the people working these jobs, who are usually women, people with a migration background, and racialized people, are often the most overlooked. We walk past them in the corridors, but we rarely see them, and we almost never hear about them. After all, there aren't any shows or songs about cleaners. Welcome to Unsung Cleaners. In this first episode, we pull back the curtain. We meet two cleaners from different parts of Europe. Hayat Elhore, who cleans the halls of the European Parliament in Brussels, and Lisa Stenson, a hospital cleaner in Ireland. We'll hear what a day in their life is really like, the physical toll and the weight of being unseen, but also the pride they feel for the essential work that they do. We'll also hear briefly from Véronique Achille-Revillod, who discusses the essential nature of cleaning, and Giusy Sferuzza, who talks about the impact that COVID had on the visibility of cleaners. This is the story of the people who hold our world together. Our first voice is Hayat Elhore, a cleaner at the European Parliament in Brussels. She's not only a longtime worker in the sector, but also a union representative and a mother who fought for daytime cleaning in her workplace.
Donc, je suis technicienne de surface et je pratique.
I'm a cleaning technician, and I've been doing this job for several years. I like this work. When I think about it, I think of calm and the satisfaction of leaving a place clean, knowing the client or employers can see that the work has been done. It's physical work, but it's useful work. I'm also an organized person, and I like being helpful. I'm happy when the client or my employer is happy with my work.
Le client ou l'employeur est content de mon travail.
Hayat, what is it like cleaning at the European Parliament, where a lot of the most powerful people in Europe discuss human rights and democracy every day?
Pour moi, le Parlement.
For me, working at the Parliament is an honor. It's not just any place. It's where decisions are made, where votes happen. I think the main difference with other sites is the level of control. At the Parliament, there are frequent checks, sometimes even surprise inspections, and there can be fines too. That creates pressure for supervisors, but also for us, workers. In other places, the client knew us and came to speak to us. At the Parliament, we don't always see the people we clean for. The officials, the MEPs, because our shifts don't always overlap.
You also talk about loving the work. Why do you love it?
I love my job because, thanks to negotiations with my union and my employer, I was able to get daytime work. That allows me to do my job professionally, but also take care of my private life. That became very important to me when I had my first daughter at 36. I wanted to be there as she grew up, to take care of my children, my home, and my family. I can wake up, see my children, take them to school, finish work, pick them up, help them with school, have dinner with them, and say goodnight. That balance makes me happy and motivates me to keep doing this work. And I also like when people say hello or thank you. That also motivates me.
Can you tell us what a typical day looks like for you, from the moment you leave the house to when you finish your shift?
A typical day starts when I wake up at 5 a.m. I prepare everything in advance so I can wake the children, leave the house early, drop them at daycare, and then drive about an hour to work. I clock in, get changed, prepare my trolley, meet my colleagues in the corridors, check my schedule, prepare my products, and start my tasks. Sometimes there are unexpected changes. Someone is absent, so we reorganize between us as a team. But in general, I work Monday to Friday and finish at 3 p.m.
Hayat, has the workload and schedule always been like this?
It's changed a lot. Before, we might have had 3 hours for 20 offices. Now, in 3 hours, it can be 2 floors, maybe 50 offices. Because of competition and low prices, everything is calculated by square meters, not by what is actually inside each room. But we clean the rooms, the furniture, the toilets, the spaces, but we're not robots.
How does it impact your day-to-day?
I would say the hardest part is the fatigue. The stairs, carrying all the materials, repeating the same movements, that leads to a lot of back and arm pain. It's very physical. Some days there's a lot to do, and it has to be done quickly. By the end of the week, you really feel it.
And how would you say that this space affects your mental well-being? Do you get any interaction or feedback from others, for example?
Many people don't realize the time and work it takes for things to be clean. If we're asked to clean something extra, it can take much longer than people think. For example, removing glue from a wall won't take just 10 minutes. It takes much more. But we still have our normal tasks waiting for us too. I think people sometimes assume that because we're there, every request can be done immediately. When clients see the result and thank us, it makes us proud. If the employer or client is happy, then we're satisfied too. That's when we see our work is necessary in society, really necessary, and that it should be visible and respected like any other job.
Hayat, you've mentioned seeing unfair situations at work. How did that turn into getting involved with the union?
I became interested in being a union representative because, at the beginning, there were not many young women in that role. Then, little by little, I met women who did not dare to speak. I saw things that were not right. I saw injustices. Many women, especially women with migrant backgrounds, couldn't express themselves easily in French or explain the difficulties they were facing. I wanted to be their spokesperson, to help them speak, to defend them, and to make things easier for them. One of the things I do in this role is to fight for daytime work, especially for women with children. I've also defended workers who received warnings that could have made them lose their jobs. My role is to try to make sure that women who need this work and who like doing this work don't lose it unfairly. When there's a heavy workload, employers should look at well-being and solutions first, before giving warnings. The work is very manual, very physical, and there's often not enough time to do everything properly.
Qui dit avertissement avec plusieurs reprises, c'est pas trop bon pour certaines travailleuses.
Her work as a union representative eventually helped build momentum for something larger. In October 2024, Hayat and thousands of other cleaners from across Europe protested outside the European Parliament. I asked her what sparked that action and what they had hoped to change.
Mes revendications, pour moi, c'était pas question.
One of our big demands was not to work until 65. Because of health, because of professional wear and tear, many people simply cannot do this work until that age. Many are on long-term sick leave, with back problems, wrist problems, knee problems. Many women have worked part-time or had career breaks, so they won't have full pensions. We also protested against unfair competition and low prices. Because what happens is, when a contract ends, another company often comes in with a lower price. After 6 months, there can be reorganizations, and workers don't know if they will keep the same hours, or if they will have the same hours with much more work. There's also too much subcontracting, sometimes undeclared, and some employers abuse that.
Les patrons abusent avec ces sous-traitances.
European institutions should act as role models when it comes to treating workers with dignity. Nonetheless, Hayat's story shows how even in the halls of political power, the work of cleaners remains invisible, until workers demand to be seen and recognized. But this invisibility isn't new. It's been built into how our systems view cleaning work: low-paid, outsourced, disposable. Véronique Achille-Revillod, General Secretary of the French Democratic Confederation of Labour, or CFDT Services, and author of Essential if Essential, explains how this invisibility is embedded in the way cleaning work has always been treated.
Depuis toujours, les emplois de la propreté, c'est-à-dire du nettoyage, ont toujours...
For as long as anyone can remember, cleaning jobs have been considered not worth very much, carried out either by enslaved people, or by volunteer women, or by nuns, who were all exploited. Then, of course, these cleaning jobs were later carried out within companies and became paid work. But in France, a different way of organizing cleaning workers was set up, taking this activity out of the core activity of client companies and making it a sector in its own right, with the promise of establishing a collective bargaining agreement. The idea was that this would make it possible to gain new rights. Yet, unfortunately, those rights never came, and clients keep trying to pay less and less for these services. So the main message of the book, Essential if Essential, is not to forget these workers. It is time to realize that real skills are needed to carry out cleaning. The book is a tribute to essential workers who were applauded during COVID. Without them, nothing would have functioned, neither hospitals nor public services.
Rien n'aurait tourné, ni les hôpitaux, ni les services publics, rien.
The invisibility that Véronique describes has deep historical roots, but ultimately it took a global crisis to briefly make cleaners visible. For some, echoes of that shift are still being felt today. One of those workers is Lisa, a hospital cleaner in Ireland, who says that while the applause has faded, there has been a change since COVID.
From COVID times, there was a renewed acknowledgement of what we done, of the work we carried out. And there was a lot of thanks from management in the hospital, but it's disappeared again. You know, we're not getting any real recognition now for the work we carry out. So we put a lot into our jobs, but we don't get a lot of recognition for it.
Lisa has been cleaning for over 16 years, not originally by choice, but now with a deep sense of pride.
Up where I am, it's part of maternity. So there's a huge sense of satisfaction in the area I work in. We do environmental cleaning and equipment cleaning. So I clean equipment like incubators and stuff for babies. So there is a certain sense of proudness in knowing that when I clean that babies are safe in them. It can be hard some days, but for the most part, I do enjoy my work. It's a really special place to work. I love going in and I love working with all my friends and my colleagues that I've met down through the last 16 years. So that does make it a little bit easier.
Can you tell us kind of what, cleaning as a skilled job looks like, the kind of training you've had to receive, how often you need to update that training, and update your skills?
So in recent years, our hospital sent all the cleaning staff on a 4-week health related cleaning skills course. It's a level 5 certificate. So we've all of a sudden become college educated. That we had an assignment, a skills demonstration, and a written exam at the end of it. So, to me, if you have to go to college to do a job, you're a skilled worker. Cleaning is a completely different job now than it was 10 years ago. You can see even the demographics have changed. It was very predominantly female for a very, very long time. But now we've a lot more men working with us and a lot more young men who are putting themselves through college or, and they're coming into the hospital at the weekends and working with us. It's completely different to be a cleaner.
Can you kind of walk us through what a typical workday looks for you? What time do you generally work at the hospital? How do you commute to work? And what happens kind of when you walk through the hospital doors?
As soon as I go into my area in the morning, I check our sign off sheet from the day before because I may not have been there the day before. So I check to see what my colleague might have done. If there's something that she hasn't checked off, I kind of make that my priority first thing in the morning. So that is still done within the 24-hour period. So my first port of call is kind of to go around and empty the bins because they do fill up quite quickly in a hospital. And then just go around and check to see, do I need linen or anything like that? Because that kind of is incorporated into the role with the equipment part of the job for me. Not all cleaners where I work clean equipment, but in this specific area I do because they're trying to minimize traffic. So there. But then I go on, I do my floors and my dusting and all that kind of stuff. And then when I have that cleaning done, I stock up whatever's needed, milk or soothers or things like that. And that kind of brings me up to breakfast time. So when you go back, then you might have a couple of incubators to do, but you could be in the equipment room, dusting down all the equipment, putting the ready for use stickers on them. And that kind of takes you up then to maybe lunchtime. And you go back and you just go into the main unit then and you clean everything in the main unit. So all the incubators, the trunking, blood pressure monitors, ECG machines, the resuscitator, all those kind of things all have to be cleaned on a daily basis. So you do that and then you're kind of at tea break. So, and then when you go back in the evening, you do your cleaning again. So your bins, your floors. And then sometimes my favorite part of the day.
Thanks so much. That's really helpful to understand that. I feel like the stakes for cleanliness are probably quite high in the hospital. Tell us a little bit more about this kind of pressure that you face.
Our job is quite physical, so if you're doing a 12-hour shift, you're constantly on the move. We have to be audited, but if we get less than 90% in an audit, your area fails. So it's extremely high standards, and sometimes that pressure can just be a little bit too much.
What do you wish the patients, the visitors, nurses, doctors, or even the public understood about cleaning and what you do on the day to day?
I sometimes feel like we're very undervalued, that what we do is not fully appreciated. We've always said it where I work, the only time people notice what a cleaner does is when she doesn't do it. As you said, from COVID times, there was a renewed acknowledgement of what we done, of the work we carried out. And there was a lot of thanks from management in the hospital and from our own management. They really did appreciate us. So, that made us all feel better about the role we carry out. But it's disappeared again. We're not getting any real recognition now for the work we carry out, even though we're sent on training courses on how to do the job properly. And, so we put a lot into our jobs, but we don't get a lot of recognition for it.
Is again such a relevant part of being essential for working in hospitals. I mean, did you have a say in the matter in terms of like being assigned to work at the COVID ward? And did it have an impact on your health?
I could have said no. I was well within my rights, but I had a discussion with my manager at the time, and somebody has to go. And if you do it, people will follow. So I said, okay, I'll do it. It was very terrifying. I done the day cleaning for about 2 weeks in the COVID ward, and then they wanted 24-hour cleaning, so I went over to nights. And while I was on nights, I suppose because of everything I was seeing that was going on, I lost about 2.5 stone. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. So it had a really, really bad effect on my physical health. I never got COVID while I was working in the COVID ward, but I got a load of other issues.
Lisa's story reveals the emotional and physical toll of being asked to, and often forced to, show up during a global crisis. Cleaners like her kept hospitals running, ensured surfaces were disinfected, and made spaces safe, often while putting their own health and lives at risk. During the pandemic, cleaning work was finally recognized as essential. But that visibility didn't always translate into lasting change. To understand why, we turn to Giusy Sferuzza, a collective bargaining officer at the Italian Confederation of Workers' Unions. She explains how the pandemic brought a rare moment of public appreciation and how quickly that momentum began to fade.
The
multi-services sector is one that has not always enjoyed proper recognition of its central importance. Paradoxically, during the pandemic, workers who had always been considered invisible saw their work defined as essential for the first time. Although defined as essential, the work did not receive any economic or regulatory recognition. Once the hard years were behind us, there was the risk that workers would once again become invisible.
What Giusy describes, the risk of cleaners becoming invisible again, has been echoed frequently by workers across Europe. But it's also what has driven many to start getting organized. Lisa, for example, didn't just witness this shift. She became part of Ireland's largest trade union, Services Industrial Professional and Technical Union, also known as SIPTU, to protect and expand her rights and the rights of cleaners like herself.
I have been a SIPTU member since I started working in the hospital. As soon as you walked in the door, it was like, join the union. So everyone joined the union. SIPTU have always had campaigns and joint labour committees to ensure that people who work in contract services, not just cleaning, but catering and security, to ensure that they have the best possible rights and benefits and terms and conditions that they can possibly fight for. Every year in security and cleaning, there's a JLC and we get an increase to help ease the cost of living burden. And I do think if we didn't have a union, we would have very little else. They listen to us when we speak, they hear us, and they help us.
As Lisa points out, real recognition means more than applause alone. It means structural changes, proper pay, and respect for the work. Across Europe, from Belgium to Italy, many cleaners are pushing for exactly that. One of them is Hayat, who we heard from earlier. Before we wrapped up, I asked her what advice she'd offer to others trying to organize from within.
Pour moi, elles doivent s'informer, connaître leurs droits.
My advice is to get informed. Know your rights. Don't be afraid. There are representatives. There are unions. And it's important to be represented. And for representatives, reach out, even when they don't come to us directly. Listen, support them, and guide them.
Son épaule et voilà, lui conseiller aussi.
Hayat and Lisa. Different countries, different workplaces. But their stories show very similar things. Cleaning is skilled labor. It's essential, demanding, and above all, deserves dignity. But invisibility isn't just a feeling. It's a created structural condition, one shaped by systems that decide which work matters and who deserves recognition for it. This podcast exists because cleaners aren't waiting to be seen. They're stepping forward, making themselves visible, speaking up, and demanding respect. So here's where we begin. The next time you walk through a freshly cleaned office or enter a hospital room or see a colleague emptying bins, pause. Ask yourself, who is doing this work? Do they feel seen? And thank them. And wherever you are, whether you're a coworker, a student, a visitor, someone with hiring power, or with policy influence, ask another question. Are the people who keep this place running being paid fairly for how essential their work really is? Start that conversation, because that's how solidarity begins. Next time on Unsung Cleaners, we delve into the shadows of the schedule. What is the hidden toll of night work and split shifts? And how are cleaners fighting to bring their work into the light of day? This podcast was produced by Sedan Andler for UNI Europa. Interviews and narration by Gail Rego. Special thanks to Alessia Mora and Mark Bergfeld from UNI Europa, as well as dubbers Sedan Andler, Alessia Mora, and Alessandra Giannessi, and to all the guests featured in this episode: Hayat Elhore, Lisa Stenson, Véronique Achille-Revillod, and Juzi Sveruzza. Thank you for listening to Unsung Cleaners, a podcast supported by UNI Europa and co-funded by the European Commission. Subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.